Hi there, Karen Flaherty here from Living by Human Design. Hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to be talking about gate 41, which is the gate of creativity and fantasy, and it's the beginning of the Human Design New Year. So Happy New Year. So the sun moved into gate 41 yesterday, January 22nd, and it will go until January 27th. The Earth is in gate 31. So the 41 down here is the gate of creativity and fantasy, and we call it the beginning of the Human Design New Year because it's the very first gate in the mandala that goes around that represents the I Ching as the gates go around the sun. And so this is basically the start of the new year that has to do with the Human Design New Year. Basically 3 weeks into the Gregorian calendar, right? And when January 1st started our new year, lots of people weren't quite ready. And so usually by 3 weeks in, we're about ready to start creating a new year for ourselves. And that's what this creativity has to do with. So the 41 is down here coming off the root. It's all about, it's a pressure gate, and it's the pressure to evolve and to start new things. So that's appropriate, right? We also call it the start codon. It's the start of all the DNA that has to do with starting and creating and evolving each cell. Electromagnetically, it's the beginning of all the cells. So that's why we consider it to be the start of, in this respect, the start of the Human Design New Year as well. The 31 comes off the bottom of the throat, and this is the gate of influence. And this is what's in the earth. And so for the entire week, except for a few moon gates that might change the look of this a little bit, we're back to a chart that looks like a reflector, right? With all the centers open and not having any specific centers defined that would affect you or any of the people around you. We've still got Venus and Mercury in retrograde, and Mercury will stay in retrograde until February 4th. So if you're noticing that there are some funny things going on with your computers, with appointments you're making, with communications you're having, or things like that, this is a funny time to be having them. They will continue until the 4th. As I mentioned, we call this the gate of fantasy. It's also called the gate of decrease or contraction in the original I Ching. But again, whenever there's like a kind of a negative connotation to the names in the I Ching, it usually means that there's the opportunity for forward motion, right? So they call it the limitation of resources, which maximizes development of potential. So it's limiting the resources, but then that allows you to find other ways to evolve, to change, to move, to create, right? And to therefore move forward. The incarnation crosses this week are the crosses of the unexpected, fantasy, and the alpha. And in the gate 31, we've got the gate of influence. It's in the I Ching, it's called influence or leading in the original I Ching. And so this is the law of friction, whether active or passive, that engenders transference and thus influence. So basically it's two things rubbing up against each other, right? That create some influence moving forward, because one person has an opinion or an idea or a new creation, perhaps. They let the other person know about it, and then they're able to influence them as a result of letting them know about that idea or other concepts that they have in mind. And influential people are just that. They can really change the mood of a room. They can change the course of direction for a project. They can be politicians, for example, or corporate leaders, or people like that. Or they can be just anybody who's got an opinion and who's not afraid to express it. They can be very influential. In the Gene Keys, arrogance is the shadow, leadership is the gift, and humility is the CD. So as we look at the 41st gene key, what we see is that the shadow is called fantasy, the gift is anticipation, and the CD is emanation. And so the fantasy is basically someone having an idea, having a fantasy, having an idea or new concept about something, some type of creativity, but not being able to actually manifest it. The gift is anticipation, where what he calls the non-genius of fantasy, because basically it's in our heads, right, meets with anticipation. The gift of anticipation is really where the creativity is able to manifest, and therefore it looks like genius, because it's so creative, and it actually does become something. He uses the example of Mozart. Mozart started quite early as a composer. His father was a master teacher and composer, and so he was kind of surrounded by music all his life. Richard actually calls it the morphogenetic field. It's almost like he was immersed in music his entire life, and so he came up with very creative compositions, and the creativity was able to manifest. In other words, it wasn't just in his head. He didn't keep it just in his head, or scribble his notes and not let anyone see them. They actually were manifest, and the creativity that was really his gift was able to affect the entire world. So in the 41st gene key, Richard says the real reason why people in their New Year's resolutions, why people fail in their New Year's resolutions, sorry, that got cut off, is because the true New Year begins on January 22nd, where the sun moves into the 41st gene key, which is the start codon in our genetics. And so it really does make us, or have us be really at the beginning of every single, the start codon is in every single cell, and electromagnetically affects each and every one of us, and each and every cell within each and every one of us. So it's really the start of everything. He also says that doing it in these 6 days where the sun is in the gate 41, and to create our resolutions, if you will, or intentions for the new year, or goals for the new year, this is really a good time to do it. It's super powerful to do it now. Because most people make their resolutions in the old energetic year with the energy still waning, right? So it's as though they're trying to begin something new, but the entire weight of the universe is against them. And so if you haven't made any resolutions yet, or intentions for the new year, or journaled about them, this is a good time to do it. Until the 27th is a great time to do it. He also says that over half of our genetic code derives from other organisms from an earlier evolution. So we're believe it or not, we're really created from things that have gone before us, right? The water, the air, the material within us. We are 92% water, I think. So it's a lot of water that's come from somewhere else, and it wasn't all in the womb, right? So as we developed, there's some other water, other elements basically coming in. So who knows? Are we made of, things that have died, leaves, soil, things from the sun, things from all over? We're definitely created from things that have gone before. And this, because nothing's new in the universe. We're all created and recreated and created yet again. So it's kind of a weird thing to think about, but it's, I think it's the truth. So we've got a number of people this week. As I mentioned, Mozart was born with this gate 41 in his sun, in his conscious sun. We've got Chief Justice John Roberts, John Belushi, Somerset Maugham, the Paul Newman, Humphrey Bogart. And as I said, it's the right angle across at the unexpected, which sounds kind of funny too. But the unexpected is in terms of, and I've talked with a number of clients with this gate, where things happen in your life that aren't necessarily expected, but that you're ready for, right? Where you're able to create into those things, or create from those things that happen in an unexpected way, a real career, a real project, a real legacy as a result of those unexpected things happening. And so they can be very interesting. They can be sometimes spiritual. They can be very much of this world on the material plane, or they can be very, as I said, spiritual. There's this cross of fantasy and the cross about the alpha. A few things that happened this week in history. The Boeing 747 made its first trip from London to New York City with 332 passengers in 1970. Jerusalem became the official capital of Israel in 1950. Alex Haley's Roots series began, a record-breaking 8-night broadcast on ABC in 1977. Gold was discovered in California in 1848 and started the gold rush out there. And in 1915, Alexander Graham Bell in New York with Thomas Watson in San Francisco made a telephone transmission, the first one in different places. The first Winter Olympic Games took place in the French Alps in 1924. In 1972, Shirley Chisholm, who was the first African-American woman elected to the U.S. Congress, announced her candidacy for president. And so she was the first woman to announce that she would run for president. In 2005, Condoleezza Rice was appointed to the post of Secretary of State by George W. Bush. And in 1959, NASA selected 110 candidates for the first U.S. space flights that would go on during the 1960s. So, and in 1973, a ceasefire in Vietnam was called while the Paris Peace Accords were going on and signed in Paris. So this is a great week to create, to set your intentions, to journal, to perhaps write what you want to do. And writing is the best way to do it, by the way, because our minds really are connected to our hands, and there's just something very methodical and very tactile about using your hands to actually write on paper as opposed to on your device. And the things that we write usually tend to manifest. So that happens for myself, for a number of clients, for lots of people that I've written about, lots of people that I read about and or listened to. And so I suggest you try it because it's works for a lot of people. Even if it's just a list, of 2 or 3 things that you want to accomplish this year, it's a great way to do it, to actually write it down and put it somewhere. You don't have to look at it again. Just let the universe know that that's what you want this year. And I wish you good health, lots of wealth, and good things happening for you, and a good start to this human design new year. Take care, be well. Talk to you soon.